Welcome, everyone. This is the regular meeting of the School Building Committee for December 8, 2022. To begin with, we have 3 sets of minutes to approve. The first one is the November 10, 2022 minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
I move we approve them.
Is there a second? Second from Steve. Thank you. Any corrections or updates? And all in favor of approving the November 10 minutes, please indicate. Any opposed or abstentions? Okay. Next set is the November 17 minutes. Is there a motion to approve
I
those?
move we approve them.
Thank you. Second. Rich, thank you. Any updates or corrections? Then all in favor of approving the November 17 minutes, please indicate. Any opposed or abstentions? Okay, and then finally, the November 30.
I'd like
special
to move
meeting.
to approve them.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Is there a second? Steve, thank you. Any corrections or updates? Then all in favor of approving the November 30 minutes, please indicate. Any opposed or abstentions? Okay. That brings us to the opportunity for public input. Is there anyone from the public that would like to address the building committee?
Mr. Chairman, doesn't appear we have any members of the public, but I did want to just relay for the group. So items 9 and 10, I had attempted to get feedback from our town attorney in anticipation of that discussion, and I have not heard back. So I would just suggest that perhaps those items be tabled for today.
Until the next meeting?
Yes.
Okay. That would require, that's a change in the agenda that would require then a motion from someone on the committee if we wish to do that, or Tony?
Could I have some clarification on what 9 and 10 are?
It's an executive session to discuss an extension of a contract.
Right, and on my list of items on the agenda, there is no number 10. It just is followed by said draft motions. So number 10 would be if we had added
There's,
it.
Yeah, I guess my version says possible
Yeah.
action on contract revisions, which
Okay.
pertains to the discussion in number 9.
Right.
Mine says the same thing. So you might have either a cutoff version of your agenda, Tony, or maybe the agenda from the short meeting that we had last week.
I mean, alternatively, we could talk about it and
No.
not take action.
I support the town manager's motion. I just,
Okay,
I'm looking at them out of date.
okay.
Well,
So-
it's she has to make the motion. right?
Yeah, so someone would need to make the motion, then I think there'd have to be someone that's actually on the committee.
Are we moving to
To-
delay action on 9 and 10?
That
I
would
didn't-
be,
Or to
that we
move
would
it to another
postpone
meeting.
it until the next meeting.
Okay,
This
can we
has to be,
table it to the next
table it,
meeting?
we can table it.
Move that we table the discussion of the extension of the contract for Colliers until our next meeting.
Okay, there's a motion and then we have a second.
Second,
Okay, okay, then, all in favor of that? Please indicate. Okay, so that's unanimous. So, that brings us to the other question then of, having quorum for a December 22nd meeting. So that will be like doubly important, even though it's 3 days before Christmas and, we'll need to have quorum.
Could we cancel that meeting and have a meeting in January? Do we need a December?
This would need to,
22nd meeting?
I think this would need to be finalized in December.
Okay, I got it.
Can we take? a poll?
Potentially, we could do a special meeting, but maybe what we'll do is have Tasha send out a poll to see who will be here on
Yeah,
the
I'll take it.
22nd.
Can we do that now, perhaps? Is that in-
But does anybody know? Does everybody know if they're, how many, give me an indication, give me a sign that you're going to be here on the 22nd? Oh, okay. We'll
I
have to,
could be
we'll have to,
virtual.
we'll have to send out a poll just to make sure. Okay, so we'll have to check quorum for the 22nd. Okay. Okay. At this moment, we still have a motion that's on the floor, so we have to vote.
Can I withdraw my motion?
Yes,
Or,
you can.
wait a minute, is there going to be a quorum on the 22nd, do we think?
If if, it looks a little bit iffy.
All right, so the motion was to delay these items until our next meeting. So if we can't meet on the 22nd, it will be at whenever meeting we meet next. They may
Right.
have to have a special meeting.
Eventually, there's a special meeting at an earlier date or something.
And the reason we're delaying it is because you have not heard back from
From
the,
the-
Yeah, we've not received any guidance from town. There's some things to unpack here, that's all. And have not received any feedback or follow-up from our town attorney yet.
Okay, so the motion is to table this until the next meeting.
Our next meeting.
Okay. And that's been seconded. I guess all in favor, please indicate. Any opposed or abstentions? Okay, well, I guess that passes. So that will shorten our agenda today, but pay attention to your emails. Adam?
Just as an, Adam with Colliers, just as an aside, there may be some items that the committee will want to review next week anyway. So that might be a fortuitous special meeting. just to help
Okay,
resolve
for multiple
things.
reasons. Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Okay, good enough. Then with that, we can move on to our contractor update. Thanks, Al and Steve, for being patient while we work out these little issues.
Okay, I'm sharing the screen here. So I'm going to go through the drone photos first. This is a shot of the building from the west side. Shows approximately half the parking lot. You can see the parking lot striped, the site poles are up. They were grading the topsoil in the island yesterday and today, this morning, and then before we left, they had seeded this and mulched it. So it's coming along.
Before we leave this photo, can I ask a question?
Sure.
You've had a lot of really warm weather. Has that had an impact on your scheduling, particularly on outside stuff?
No, the weather hasn't. The only thing that's affecting us right now is the playground. We won't be able to put the rubber surface in, so we're gonna put temporary the wood fiber
Mhm.
in like the rest of the playground. That's the only thing that's really affecting us.
I don't know if your voice is being picked up on this. on
Yeah, I
the-
was just gonna check that that's on.
Hello?
There, that's
There we
better.
go. Thank
Mm. Yeah, the only thing weather is preventing us from doing is the rubber surface at the playground right now. Everything else seems to be okay. There is grass that is germinating out by the detention pond. You'll may be able to see it in another photo. But we'll be doing reseeding in the spring once the weather warms up, You're seeing anything that hasn't taken. Just a closer building of the front, photo of the front.
Has all the zinc been replaced on the outside?
Yeah, we got a photo today of another dent that
Okay,
we,
but most of those items have been replaced.
yes, we thought we were done until we saw the photo today of another dent that somebody found. This is a shot of the pump house area. And the loading dock.
Al, what's going particularly well right now in your view from your chair?
Would you say? What would you say is going particularly well?
Typical job end crunch. I don't want to say anything's particularly well. It's like pushing a rope. Dragging people across the finish line, trying to get them completely engaged, going through checklists to make sure that all of our checkoffs for building officials sign off, for testing and inspections, for fire pump, for fire alarm, for everything. It's just a constant evolution of going through the lists. Do we have everything? Has everything been checked? So I think that's progressing in the manner we'd like to see it progress. We had a pre-test for the elevator today. other than an RFI that we sent off to Richard this afternoon. Evidently, the foot candles in the top of the shaft and the bottom of the shaft are not sufficient, so we've got to replace the lights. That's the only thing that went wrong today. Jamie's been terrific on the town's end. We have communication. We forwarded this afternoon or tomorrow morning. It's a KMS list. It's a Coney management agreement that they need signed. We thought we can fill it out, but it needs a list of who's the first responder in case of an elevator emergency, who's the second responder, who's the third responder, and it's a sign off from some building town official. We sent that off to Adam. We need quick reaction on that from the town. So we can get that back to Kone. They can get that programmed into their system. So when the state elevator inspector comes next week and he's in the cab, he presses the button, there's a call out to somebody. So we need to get that buttoned up. So we didn't have any surprises today. Fire pump is going tomorrow. Yeah.
I'm sorry, we can't hear who's speaking.
Sorry, we were just hearing from Steve that they submitted a list to the town today for first responders.
Oh, no, we heard that part.
Elevator.
We heard
Yeah,
that
I
part.
just was
He's
I'm
repeating it.
repeating it for Ryan because Ryan just walked in and Ryan probably can
Oh.
expedite this tomorrow. So they need that like.
So it's a list that just needs to be done so we can forward it so we don't have any hiccups next week with the state. Because they are
This was directed to the attention of the fire department or who? Public
to
safety?
Adam.
Yeah, okay, or fire marshal. Okay.
No,
Oh, that
That's
Adam. There's another Adam.
Yeah.
yeah.
Got it.
Okay.
One Adam to
It
another.
either went this afternoon or they'll go tomorrow morning. We just received the list. It did go.
And
All right. So to answer your question, things are going reasonably as we expected, but it's never easy.
right.
Can I ask a question about the foot candles?
Sure, go
In
ahead.
the, is it a matter of the size of the actual element that's in there, or is there something wrong with the fixture that holds the bulb?
It's the foot candles of the light fixture. The new elevators that are
Right.
being constructed right now, the elevator, we don't have an elevator machine room. The elevator shaft acts as the elevator machine room. So Kone needs to have proper lighting at the top of the shaft and at the bottom of the shaft to work in it as it's being a machine room. You know, so.
Right,
it's
but
some
is it
regs
a
that have
problem with
changed over
not
the years.
having the? But is the problem with the fixture or the bulbs that were in it?
It's the fixture. They're LEDs, so it's a package.
Thank
It's
you.
not that I can change the light bulb. It's got to be
Right.
a tamper-proof
Got it.
fixture.
Thank you.
Nobody can take it out. Nobody wants to be in that shaft without light. So that's the only surprise we had today.
While we're on this shot, I just thought you might want to point out the elusive generator has arrived.
Yes. Yes, the generator has arrived. It's right next to between the pump house and the dumpster fence there.
So the load test is scheduled for the 14th, which I think is Wednesday.
Wednesday.
At that point, once we do our checkoff and our load test, it'll be inspected by the fire marshal under full load and the building official. Ray was walking them through today just to give them ideas when things were going to be happening. Wires are pulled. I don't think the diesel's in it yet. And I don't think the batteries are completely charged. So that's it.
A shot from the south side.
How much roof work is remaining, The solar panels are all in. Is that right?
Correct.
And the skylights are all in?
Skylights are all in. We did have a change order for some guards at the skylights. all of those are in except for the ones in the library. So we're gonna have a temporary, there's a yellow rail up on the roof now. We're gonna leave that up there around there, just so nobody
Right.
falls through the skylights. But that one is,
Hey.
Chris, online?
Thanks. Al, are the solar panels online? They operating?
they're doing testing now, right? Oh,
Yeah, they're actually, who's your facilities person for Board of Ed? He was there today.
Alan or
Alan.
Beltreach?
They're doing training on it tomorrow. The only thing we needed, we were communicating directly with Jamie. They need some type of internet line so they can talk to it somehow. So I think they were working on that. But they're being trained on it tomorrow. It's kind of an inert system, but he wanted to see how it ran and how it happened.
Al, speaking of the roof on the awning, whatever it's
The
called,
canopy.
that still looks to not be done, or at least the edging isn't done. What's going on with that?
correct. We had a change order there for the electrical work in that, in the edges of the canopy. It called for conduit into junction boxes and then poking through for the lights. And then they showed the sprinkler pipe below that, and it limited access to those junction boxes. So they had to redesign the electric. They're now using cables with no junction boxes. So that's to fix that. That's why we don't have the fascias in, because we have to install the fire protection piping, the cabling first, and then the fire protection pipe goes in after the cabling. So we got the cabling on site. So we're going to be starting that.
What's the timing on that? Till the roof, till that whole thing is done, the canopy?
I would say about 2 weeks. We have the lumber to close it off, but we just can't close it off until the work is done.
Al,
Chris,
that's been on the schedule for a while. What was the holdup? I mean, that's an old issue. That's not a new one. That sprinkler pipe thing.
Yeah, well, the delay, I believe, was in the response to the RFI that we submitted. It just took a while to come up with this alternate design.
Thank you.
In front of the building. Jim,
Go ahead, maybe, Tony.
Before we leave the roofs, is there anything else on the roofs that needs to be done? I mean, aside from solar panels and the skylights? I mean, there's a whole bunch of systems up there and I don't remember all of the things that needed to be finished.
yeah, solar panels are complete.
Yeah,
I don't know of anything else up there that
Nothing
we have
else.
to. it's not
okay, there
stuff-
were some vents that were directed the wrong way or something. I mean, there's in the whole long list of items that need to be looked at. There were, over the past couple of months, there were a number of roof things and I just don't remember what they were, but so my question is a very general one about the whole roof.
You know, we have, oh, yeah, the cages, which we talked about for the skylight.
Yeah.
In the library. And then we have to do that, raise that parapet at the gym by the loading dock.
Right.
And that's, should be starting soon. The other side of the parapet, the other side where we had to raise it by the main entrance, that's complete. That side's complete.
Thank you.
Welcome. Mr. Ballfield, it's coming along pretty well. Don't see any dead areas, so that's good. But we'll check it in the spring, just to make sure. Yeah, site lighting is all installed. Bollards and the single and double poles.
Al, we're avoiding,
Can I ask about the bollards?
Go ahead, Chris.
I noticed that, I know, thank you, Randy. I noticed that the bollards are all at different heights. What's going on there?
Yeah, they just installed the covers on them, but there's a fix that's in, the landscape architect gave a fix to BB. Go to a shot for that. See if I can get a shot of it. Chris.
So the covers are on?
there's another.
Or is there,
First picture.
Yeah, but you said you started to say there's a fix for,
Yeah, the landscape architect gave a fix to BB to make sure there's concrete at the top of the bollards. So,
which would essentially level them off.
correct.
Yeah.
Here's the detention pond. In the back.
Has the problem with the retention pond been solved?
No, not yet.
Do you know what it is? Do you know what the problem is?
Water's not draining properly. Water's not draining properly.
That we became aware of. Yes.
I think you need to talk to the design team about that.
Yeah, if I could weigh in on that, this is Richard. We don't know after conversations with Fuss and O'Neill what the problem exactly is. Yes, it's not draining, but we don't know whether that because of silt that has flown from the edges down and has filled the topsoil area. There's roughly 2 feet of topsoil for vegetation that will be planted in that area. And then below that, there's a sub base of stone. And below that is the earth, which should be very, very free draining. So we don't understand why water's not getting through the topsoil to the underlying stone and native material. So silt could be one cause if the erosion controls failed or something happened to allow silt to flow into the topsoil, that could plug up the topsoil layer. There also is the possibility that the topsoil area is over compacted. We won't know until the retention basin is drained and we actually can conduct some tests. Fuss and O'Neill, the civil engineer, had proposed a way to lower the water level in there to help get the water out of it. I think there was a meeting between Fuss and O'Neill and BB today about exactly where that one of several dry well structures that will be put into this retention basin to allow it to free drain. And then we'll be able to determine the costs. So I don't know, Al or Steve, if you can comment about those conversations with BB. Hopefully they
Just a comment to the designer's comments. There was about maybe 4 to 5 feet of siltation migration into that pond. All right, that had been cleaned up before it was hayed. It's been hayed. When you look at the erosion around that pond, it doesn't appear if there's any siltation that has migrated into that pond.
Okay.
The reports that we have received from Fuss and O'Neill, with a low-grade dozer was exactly what was specified. He commented to that in his report. Subsequent to the report, he ran perk tests for water filtration. And I know Tom very well from Fuss and O'Neill. He said it perks so fast that shouldn't be any issues, but there is an issue. We don't know what it is. We don't think it's contractor issues. We think there may be some subterranean element that's keeping that water where it is. Perking, you're only perking about 5 gallons of water into a hole and you let it percolate into the surface area. you've got a horizontal surface that's trying to perk through this big mass. So we did meet with Fuss and O'Neill and the site contractor. And what Fuss and O'Neill's proposing is not an easy task. The first dry well that he wants to put in is at or about the water level where it's at now, just so no other water increases in elevation. But it's so close to the water level, and based on the 2 feet of topsoil and everything else, we literally potentially need to build a cofferdam to sink a 5-foot hole, because as soon as you scoop it, what's going to happen with that 2 feet of water? The topsoil is super saturated with that water. It's just going to slough into that hole. So it's a problem. That's number one. Number two, to drain the water. That's where all the water for the entire site goes. So where do we put the water to drain the water? We can use frac tanks, which is typically done in an environmental control situation. But the frac tanks usually are filtered and then drain into a catch basin back into the pond. So it's a little more complicated than why hasn't this been fixed? It's seems simple, but it's complicated and it's going to take some time. We've got BB putting their thoughts together, putting it on paper. And Tom said that he would come to another meeting and have kind of a pre-construction meeting. So the first catch basin that would be done is off the edge of the pond. So the pond doesn't increase any further. That water's got to migrate out. And then there's 2 more catch basins that go into the middle of the pond. Can't walk into that water with a set of waders. With 2 feet worth of topsoil being super saturated the way it is, you're going to sink up to your belly button. So we're not putting anybody in there until we know that we've got that water control. But how do we control it? So hopefully.
I appreciate that. I didn't mean to oversimplify it. I just did not know the answer to why it's not draining. And I did want to report that people are working on it, Fuss and O'Neill as well as BB. So we'll just have,
And Newfield.
and Newfield. I beg
Thank
your
you.
pardon. Newfield is part of the brainstorming on how to make this thing work.
And just, I'm a civil engineer by trade, so I used to work for Leonard Engineers when I went to UConn. They were right on 195. I perked probably half the properties on this site in Mansfield and Coventry.
Well, not to be flip, but we don't have a ice skating rink in Mansfield.
I was thinking about that. If that freezes, you got an ice skating rink.
Right, so that was the last of the drone photos. Now for some camera photos. This is just showing the grading of the topsoil in the islands. And the pavement markings are complete. This is the trike path, which they're working on now. They should be paving that, whether depending on weather, but hopefully it'll be this week. It's too wet. So once it's suitable to pave, we'll be paving that. Quarter A, they've finished the flooring in area A now. The next step will be doing base. Admin, the last couple of days has been carpeted. And they're expecting the wall base for the carpeted areas to arrive tomorrow. Admin offices. This is a typical classroom in A. Floor is complete, base is complete. We have, yes. Couple of things that are left to do here. You can see the smart boards have been installed by Jamie and his crew. We have the room on identification numbers on the outside of the windows for rescue personnel. We have the room signs that have to be installed. And we have the tackable surfaces, which are in the millwork, which he's cutting now. It has to relax for a couple of days, flatten out before you can install it. So that should be being installed this weekend. Chip
Al,
did
this
on the
is Chris.
state.
I have a question.
Oh, go ahead, Chris.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead, Chris.
I wonder if this is the time to ask about the barrier one additive to the concrete mix, now that all the floors are being installed on there. Did we get an answer to that?
Adam,
So we just got that report, so that'll be something that's distributed out to the SBC as well as Newfield and TSKP, so we can all look at it. So if we're having another special meeting next week, that'll give people time to look at it and then it can be discussed then.
News or bad news?
It's a technical report, so it's just news.
Any different than the Wish Cheney report that we sent? Any different than the Wish Cheney report that we provided?
Just at first blush, it comments on the same type of petrographic results and things and talks about the top layers of concrete and carbonation. So from a formatting and review of the data standpoint, it's similar in nature.
Well, that's good news. Shades on.
Yeah, another item we're missing are window shades, which are coming next Wednesday. So it'll be about a week to install the window shades.
Al, on that, coming next Wednesday, great news, but some time ago they were coming, fill in the blank. How do we know actually that they are coming next Wednesday any more than we did or didn't know last time?
We got confirmation from the supplier that they're going to be delivered to the site on Wednesday.
And last time, no confirmation, just our talk? I mean, what's going on?
We don't have a tracking number for the shades. Yeah, we've been trying to get a tracking number, but we can't.
So we've got a verbal confirmation and we think it's good.
Yes. We hope it's good.
Yeah.
The main delay with these window shades, I don't know if you're aware of it, but you remember long ago when we had a change order to add this light shelf? The original plan called for, I believe it was like 2 shades, maybe one for this side, one for that side in each room. But now that we have the shelf and the brackets that go back to the aluminum supports, now we have 4 shades. So it changed the whole order of the shade. This is a corridor in area B. You can see the this in-pro wall covering at the bottom. It's like a heavy duty wall covering. It's like abuse resistant covering. That's finished in this area now. The last thing they have to do here is they have the room numbers and the baseboard molding. Oh yeah, and in the base molding has that what do they call it? The intumescent base for
glow in the dark, glow in the dark.
glow in the dark for egress purposes.
Luminous.
We just got that worked out of where we're going to install and where we're not going to install it.
Is that an actual light or is that literally glow in the dark?
It's a glow in the dark.
It's literally glow in the dark.
Thank you.
Stair 2 has been tiled. It looks really nice. It's complete. This wall over here is where the trees go, the mural trees, which won't be. We don't have a delivery date for that yet, but we're thinking within the next 2 months we'll get that.
What are
6 to 8 weeks.
What are those heavy brackets at the landing and then halfway down this side, but not on the other side. Is those alignment things? What is that
Yeah,
about?
no, yeah, those are only temporary for now. Those are just
Okay.
to assist him in installing this rail.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
You can see at the bottom, the mid landing up on the wall, that's that beam detection globe that isn't working with the deflector at the other end of the cafeteria.
I think actually, Steve, that's not the one. I think
Is
the
it
one,
further up?
it's the one up higher on
All
the
right.
wall.
It
in
looks
the
like that.
Main hallway. Yes, it does. Yeah.
So.
Actually, it's more of a camera, weird camera
So
look.
we, I think are working with the engineers to make a determination. We were told by the building official and the fire marshal, it's not needed. So it's not working anyway because it's up on the curtain wall. And there's too much like refraction for the beam.
What is it supposed to do?
It's
A
a,
smoke
like a
detection?
smoke detection. It's a nice to have, but not a need to have, and we're just waiting for, Richard's, group to tell us to eliminate it. We can't just leave it there. We have to then take it out, patch it, and then take it off of the fire alarm system.
This is the music room. Flooring just got installed and the base will be going in the next couple of days. The kiln in the art room. It's being installed now, being hooked up. This is the exterior balcony on the south side. We're just keeping this tenant in so that they just finished the tile out here the other day. We're just waiting for it to cure a few days and then we'll take down the protection. Kitchen. We got all the above ceiling inspections complete. We got the ceiling tiles installed. We're waiting on a stand that should be coming out on Tuesday. That supports a combi oven. So next week we should be very close to wrapping up the kitchen and handing it over to the cleaners. And lastly, on the camera photos is this is the stage. So what we're doing here is we're going to do the stage area with the number 2 grade as specified. They're going to sand it and finish it, and we're going to inspect it next week to see how it looks before we start the gym.
Can we hear about the gym number 2 grade mistake? Or do we have the number 1 grade on site?
No, we don't.
When is that expected?
There's 770 square feet of number 1 available that we can get within a week, I guess. So the plan was to finish up the stage, sand it and finish it, polish it, see how it looks, and then make a decision on the gym.
Yeah, perhaps I can speak to that a little bit. So I was part of those conversations. My view was that we still wanted the number 1 grade wood for the gymnasium. However, there's a lot of factors here. For one, in order to get the number 1 wood, we would have to wait until it's milled, kiln dried, brought to the site, acclimated to the building's temperature and humidity, and then have that installed by Newfield subcontractor. But that would significantly delay the floor. And Peter was part of those conversations, and he would much rather have the gym finished sooner rather than later. So I think the consensus among everybody in the conversation was, look, you need to do the stage anyway. Why don't you do the stage, finish it, have the committee look at the stage and make the determination whether or not Newfield should proceed with the wood they have on hand with the on the gymnasium floor. Newfield had offered a credit for the difference in material. We haven't really evaluated that credit. I think it was a $20,000 credit offer, We haven't evaluated that yet, but I think it's up to the committee now, once the stage is finished, to look at it and see if it's acceptable. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, I think you were planning to have the stage completely finished with the,
Yes, sanded and sealed.
by Wednesday?
Yeah, if it's not completely finished, there'll be at least a representation of an area that the committee can look at. Let's say 50%. We're hoping to have it all done, but you never know.
Sure. But anyway, that's,
Close.
that was the decision that was made among the group that discussed it at the last committee meeting, or the prior committee meeting, OAC meeting in the trailer.
Richard, can I ask, is the number 2 grade the same density of the wood, the same quality wood?
Yes, it's same thickness, same density. It's structurally the same. It's an appearance issue. So that's why we said, yeah, it makes sense. Finish what you have, put it on the stage only, and then let's see what it looks like.
What is the difference between grade A, grade 1 and grade 2? If
It's
it's
the-
not structural, what difference in appearance is it?
There's 3 major differences in the grades, and Richard, correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm not speaking to it properly. There's a higher percentage of darks, as you could see in grade 2 versus grade 1. There's a limitation of knots as far as the size of knots that are allowable between grade 2 and grade 1. You'll see in grade 2, sometimes a knot is, when it's milled, it's kind of streaky looking instead of a straight knot up and down. They will not allow that in grade 1, which we can, as I discussed in the previous meeting, we can cull those boards out if we needed to, if they're like bad. And then the third thing is that grade 1 offers a longer length board. This is where I get a little screwy in the terminology. I think, let's say grade 2, you get boards ranging from 3 to 5 feet. In grade 1, they go from like 3 to 6 feet. So boards are a little longer.
On average, but you can
On
still
average.
get short boards.
You
and-
still get short boards,
Okay,
and you get longer boards on the longer side.
thank you.
Did I get that right, Richard?
Yeah, that's a good description. It's really mostly in the appearance.
That's the last photo I have.
Steve has a question.
So we don't have a resolution which way we're going one way or the other, and assuming we come together next week and make a decision, how long to install and get the gym operational?
About in enough time, if you make a decision to stay with the grade 2. So as part of that credit, the flooring contractor offered to infuse into this order 770 square feet of grade 1 that he can get. And he'll use those boards to get more of the darks out. So we were kind of in, I think in the leadership meeting on Monday, you may end up with a grade 1 3/4. It's not grade 1. The contract and the specifications allow us to put the darker wood underneath the bleachers. So we would call that out. So as part of the credit, he can secure that wood. To answer your question, it would be done in enough time to get the furniture in, because you want to use that as a staging area for the furniture.
And I just want to include the 770 square feet is about what, 12%, something like that. So it's not a massive amount.
Yeah,
area.
it's 6,000 square feet is the gym, more or less. So yeah, it's 10 to 12%.
I don't know who can answer this, but this is a floor on which people are going to be running around. Does the difference of color of boards create optical issues with kids? So
I could say in the 40 schools that we've done in the last 10 years, 99% of them are grade 2. And that's high school level down to elementary school. when it's
Thank you.
wood. A lot of times I think this was an alternate or something. If I don't remember at the beginning.
That's correct. The base price was a synthetic floor.
Synthetic floor.
Yeah, and I've never heard of it being an optical distraction.
Thank you.
Okay, we can open up to other general questions. Go ahead, Tony.
I have one. You were dealing with different colored doors, cabinets. Some were dark and some were light. You were going to shift them around so that each classroom had either light or dark, but not a mix. Has that happened yet?
They're in progress of doing that right now. They've actually gone through the entire job and mixed and matched different doors, because pretty much the classroom cabinets are pretty much the same in each wing. You know, so you have a lot of cabinets to choose from. So they're picking and choosing the doors that best fit together and using those. And then what's left over, they have to go back to their shop and now make new doors. So there's about, I want to say 30 or so doors that they'll be making new to match the, you know, what's the balance of the other cabinets. And this is not a stained product. This is just a clear coat on maple. So it's affected a lot by UV lighting also, because we've noticed the change just since the cabinets were installed, and they have access to light now. So they do change colors. You don't want to put tape or anything on the cabinets, because you pull the tape, it will be lighter below the tape than it is the surrounding cabinet. So it is affected by the UV. So they will change. They'll get darker over time.
I didn't know that Maple did that.
How do we stand with respect to the heating and HVAC system? Is it online, geothermal and all that?
The heat pumps are running. The DOAS was started again on Monday. But we were, based on the shop blasting, we kind of limited the air movement with duct work. There's enough heat in the building. The commissioning on that probably will start shortly. We don't see any, and checking out the system, we don't see that there will be any issues. The building department requires the air balancing report and the water balancing reports. The water is almost done with no, minor valve adjustments, and the air is in progress. So when you walk the building and you see open ceiling tiles, it's the balancers up in there probably checking flow dampers and things of that nature. So it's progressing. About as expected.
Water?
The domestic water will be chlorinated on Saturday. I think we need some paperwork back up on the well water for the geothermal. And it's only backup paperwork. And we're going through that with the engineers today.
And Steve, it wasn't clear to me. It wasn't clear to me. You were asked about the solar actually going online. Has that happened? When is it happening? If it
I
has
think
not?
they're waiting for getting a final sign off, and I think it could be put online. I don't know
Okay.
how it works
Yeah.
technically,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's ready to go. It's all done. It's all done. Like I said, Alan will be there tomorrow to be trained on it. So at that point in time, I think we flip a button and you're getting solar, I guess.
Sprinkler stuff? Sprinkler pump?
The pump is being flowed tomorrow. We have to run water through it. That is so we can do final adjustments on the shaft assemblies. So we don't have that thing rattle and blow up on us. That's happening tomorrow. The technician for the fire pump control panel will be there to tune in the panel. I believe Ray has the fire marshal actually wants to witness the flow test. He doesn't need to, but he said, I want to be there. So he'll be there tomorrow as well. And everything checks out tomorrow and there's no surprises, we'll move forward to a final pump test that will coincide with the fire alarm test, I think. Because there's that thing that Joe's doing with BVH on Wednesday, the blower test. We've kind of moved the our test to Thursday because we've got to kind of have the building sealed. Or Tuesday, it's all mapped out. But yeah, we're ready to roll on that.
Thank you.
There's no other critical procurement issues at this point, are there?
The 2 water heaters that were missing that were supposed to have been shipped last Monday are actually shipping. When is that? It's either shipped on the 8th, which is today. We don't have confirmation, with delivery to the site on the 12th. And again, to your point, until I see a tracking number, it's not heading our way. So we've asked the mechanical engineer. 12/14. Yeah, I think it maybe 12/12 was our anticipated delivery date, and checking with the mechanical contractor this afternoon. But yeah, I think we're close to getting those 2 things in and wired up, plumbed.
Ryan?
So I believe 12/21 is still your date. I know that there's a number of things that still are yet to happen aside from, construction related things, just in terms of local review approvals,
Mhm.
planning, zoning, building department, all that. In my mind, there's always a distinction between what can be achieved and what will be achieved. So I guess on that spectrum of like, are we still in a place where you think 12/21 will happen versus if things go well, it can happen?
I think it will happen,
It will happen.
with some cooperation. And that would be everybody, including the town. And do need, what we don't have yet, is we need the bond format for planning and zoning.
I believe that's being worked on as we speak.
All right, so, because I think we could be pretty reactive to getting that bond initiated, but until I have that format, I can't tell you. If it's pretty standard, we could flip it around in a day. I think P and Z's doing their walkthrough on Tuesday. The walkthrough will be with our site contractor and our landscaping contractor in case she has any questions to what we've said we would get done and what is done. So we could be reactive to anything that may be out there. And hopefully that's put to bed. Mike, your building official, gets that sign off with her bond. All of the paperwork that was required from the designers, you have. Richter Segan. Can you look into that? I thought we had that.
Yeah, I know it was sent. It was absolutely sent.
Yeah, I know. I think we have everything that we need from the designer side. So it's her walkthrough, initiating the bond for the work that's incomplete and getting her to, there's one other item is the DOT. The building, P and Z requires written notification of permitting with DOT that work is complete. And I'm going to speak for Joe Luciano, but I think our work may be tied in with the little work up at the intersection. So DOT is willing to give us a verbal, but they won't put it in writing. They won't put it in writing because they want to see grass growing. They want to see their right of way completely 100% done. I asked them if you will want to we'll give you a bond for the work to guarantee it'll be done, but the town needs it in writing. And our inspector said that he would talk to his boss, find out if we can get that in writing. So we do have a verbal. They were okay with what was done. It's the only hiccup in the P and Z sign off, which then engages Mike in his inspections. He'll still conduct his inspections, but he can't give us a final CO or temporary, whatever, until he sees P and Z's check off. So we've got everything kind of mapped out. We've been spending the last week or so kind of mapping things out. I think we can get there. Barring no surprises. They will. Yeah, DOT will be there Tuesday with P and Z, so we'll know for sure.
Okay, yeah, the playground play surface is going to be temporary
That's correct.
with mulch until next summer. Is the plan probably? Or
Yeah,
at least
I-
until spring?
At
before
least
they-
until spring, but I think based on the school, it's gonna take more than a week to do that play surface as it's specified. The rubber surface, and I know that, I think at worst you only have a week off. We can't guarantee from Friday to Sunday night that will be done, so we would advise that we just defer that work until the summertime, when you're out of school. We can get back in there, dig it all out and replace it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
go ahead.
one thing I have a concern about, given this, the unknown and the retention pond and, the unknown solution as well as whatever, and can we get in there and so forth? I think you should be prepared to, in some way, fence off the rest of it, kind of close the ends. It might be something to think about.
You sure? I thought.
It
that was
is all the way to the.
I think there may be
existing-
one area open
Yeah,
because we've been managing the erosion
be
control,
just-
but yeah, we would have to slap that fence up.
Okay, any final questions? Okay, well, thank you for your report, for being here. Then, Richard, you're gonna handle the architect's update?
Yeah, so Al and Steve handled pretty much where we're at on the project. They're right at this stage of the project. A lot of things come together very quickly. It's nail biting time. It's going to be very close, and everybody needs to do their bit to make sure that the certificate of occupancy is issued by the building official. I just wanted to add 3 items. One is the punch list that we're going to be conducting. It's a walkthrough of Newfield's list of incomplete items, and we'll add to that. That's scheduled to happen on Wednesday, the 14th. We'll start at 8 o'clock in the morning, and we'll spend the day going through all of the spaces on the inside. Then we'll punch out the exterior. I'm not sure what date that will be, but that will be a separate walkthrough. All of the site walkthroughs have been done by Fuss and O'Neill and by Richter and Segan, and that information has been forwarded to Newfield along with their letters of substantial completion for the town's Planning and Zoning Commission, which is a requirement here in this town. And that's something that they require in order for the zoning official to issue a certificate of zoning compliance. So that's in place. And the certificate of zoning compliance is something that the building official requires before he can issue a certificate of occupancy. So I believe we're going to have also other representatives of the design team doing their punch list. I know Kola Ronan will be on site doing their walkthroughs on Thursday. So that's the schedule going forward next week. The second item I want to talk about is FF&E. On the 15th, which is next week, there will be a pre-installation meeting conducted by Susan Pinckney from my office, along with representatives from each of the furniture and equipment vendors. So they can see the spaces, they can visualize the delivery routes for their trucks, unloading, et cetera. And the gymnasium is part of that discussion, depending upon what they see, depending upon whether or not the gym floor will be done. The gym floor was planned to be the staging area for the delivery of furniture, assembly of furniture, and then moving it into their permanent homes throughout the building. I know Newfield needs to protect that floor. They'll put something down so that when the gym floor is finished and the furniture will arrive, the arrival of furniture will start on January 9th. So given what Al and Steve just reported, it looks like the gym floor will be done, assuming that the sample stage flooring is acceptable to the committee so they can finish the gym. So that's a critical decision on the 14th, next Wednesday.
Steve has a question.
Is it possible, I know we've planned on the gym floor, or using the gym for quite a while for this. Is it possible to do it in the cafeteria, the seating area of the cafeteria, which has a porcelain tile floor?
Yes, it is. We will have to protect the floor, but it's the same thing. I mean, they could certainly use the cafeteria floor. That will be part of the discussion during the pre-installation walkthroughs that will happen next Thursday on the 15th.
Randy, next question. Based on the information we've been given and the images we've seen, I don't see why we wouldn't approve the use of the number 2 floor already. Is there a reason?
Well, that's a photograph. I think you have to see it live. It's not finished yet, so it's fastened, but it's not sanded and finished.
Do we, I think the floor in the middle school gymnasium, do you know, Adam, you've done any of these tours? I think it's a 1. I think.
So I don't know the answer, but it's
I
funny
meant
you
to
bring that
start-
up because I have one of our kids practices there weekly and this conversation came up before her last practice. And based on what Steve was saying about grains and knots and those sort of thing that push it into grade 2, I would speculate that it's grade 1 because it's a pretty
Yeah,
not
I
free,
believe it is.
grain-free floor.
But what's in telling there is that you don't notice it, which may suggest you don't notice it when it's all,
Well, I think
or it may suggest that we don't really notice the floor.
anytime you're talking about aesthetics, you talk to two people, you're gonna get two different opinions, you know, I mean, speaking for myself, I'm not saying if I was building a backyard hardwood floor, you know, gym with basketball hoops, what I'd want, but I like knots, I like grain. I think that gives a floor character. So if it's not a performance issue, you know, but
So we'll take a look at it next week.
And the third item was the gym floor, which we already talked about at quite some length. So those are the 3 things I wanted to touch upon. That's it.
Questions for Richard? Rich?
And as far as we know, Richard, the FF&E is coming on time?
Yes, in fact, it's in storage. You're paying storage charges for it. It will be delivered.
Mary?
Delivered in 3 or 4, over a 3 or 4 week period.
Okay, we'll do Mary and then Chris McNamara. I think I saw your hand.
When we look at the gym floor, will we be doing that via photograph? Similar to the way we did it today, or?
Well, I asked Randy if he could have representatives come to the site on Wednesday to do a punch list with us, walk through, and making notes as we walk through so that we can do it all together one time. What I don't want to have happen is lots of people show up independently and make their own list. That's really unfair to the contractor. So that's why we're going to do it on the 14th. And I think that when you see it live, you'll be able to make a decision.
I can work with members of the committee to, I mean, if you just want to come in and look at that floor, we can set up times for that. Separate, maybe even separate from the punch list. Chris McNamara?
I was wondering if they're running any double shifts to try to make sure this punch list stuff is in fact done, because some of it really sounds just like massive incomplete work, not punch list. So I think it needs a lot of hands-on.
I think that's a question for Newfield.
It's being managed.
Okay. Any other questions for Richard? Okay, thanks, Richard. Then OPM update.
So as you saw from Al's photos, and for those that have been able to come outside recently, there's a definitely a change from the last, several months up into the recent state of things where you have flooring, you have finishes. There are a number of items outstanding, kind of to Chris McNaboe's point. There will be the punch list walkthrough and it'll be a large punch list. There'll be a lot of things on there. And so from my standpoint of the OPM update, the characterization of the next 2 weeks is just that of walkthroughs, inspections and tests, just every day, multiple important things going through, whether it be elevator, fire pump, solar, MEP final, generator, all the way down, all the way up to our the target December 21st date. But the other thing to keep in mind, which sort of segues into one of the agenda items with regard to the meeting schedule going into 2023, is there will be a longer tail to the end of this project, even after certificate of occupancy, substantial completion. Once kids are in, there will still be a number of items that just will need to continue to be complete as we go through the months into 2023. Plantings in the spring, playground surfacing potentially in the summer. There's still commissioning and items that have to occur when there's a heating season available, because you can't do heating testing when it's, or air conditioning testing when it's 20 degrees outside. So there's just a number of items that will continue as we go through, and it's manageable, it's documentable. We can track it as we go through the contract phase, but not to beat a dead horse too much here, but as Steve and Richard alluded to, there's just a lot of things to check through the last couple of weeks, more so than just the DOAS unit that we talked in the past about, or some of these other topics to check off the completion list. Yeah, really, that's the bulk of it. There's not much more for updates at this point, other than what Richard and Steve had already alluded to. And now,
Steve?
I think somebody mentioned the blower door test is next week.
yes.
That's exciting.
Yeah, they had a pre-con regarding that today, just to kind of get aligned insofar as process procedure. There were discussions today about, what some of the doors had needed to do if there wasn't a seal on it, how that was going to be sealed up, that kind of thing. So yes, finally, that's coming to fruition.
I think it's scheduled for Wednesday, and I hear that there's going to be walkthroughs on Wednesday.
I think the blower test was Thursday,
I can't remember what day.
Thursday, Thursday afternoon.
12:15 at 1 p.m. because
Is that Thursday?
Yeah.
All right, sorry, Thursday.
Tony?
Well, you've got punch lists and you've got inspections, but my guess is that every one of those things is going to turn up work that has to be done in addition to the inspection. So at the same time that you're doing all these walkthroughs and inspections, there's got to be people working like crazy to.
Yeah, we're not just focusing on the inspections. It's
Yeah.
a whole, like I said, it's all hands on deck. It's being checked off by one of our project superintendents, and as areas get closer to being finished, he prepares a pre-punch list and he monitors that. And Al gives notifications for non-performance if the contractors aren't moving as fast. There's two phases to the project. It's substantial completion and final completion. And I think the way the contract reads that we have a certain period of time after substantial completion. Now, it certainly doesn't extend to next summer to do the playscape, but I think it's 90 days. I can't remember. There's a period of time that once we get substantial completion, it's not this, we're still there. Getting things prepared, finishing things, dealing with final commissioning.
Yeah, I just want to say, we're going to be there until the day, the day kids come to school. We're not going to say, we'll see you later. We're going to be there working right along with everyone else that's trying to get the building ready, furniture and telephones and so on and so forth.
So will there need to be interior work done after the first week of classes in that building?
If that is the case, we will operations either to second shift or weekends or vacations. A lot of times with schools, we would maybe accumulate work and say, all right, you've got an April vacation. We're mobilizing on Friday night and we're working till Sunday. especially if it's evasive. And I'm thinking like this wall covering when it shows up, the trees. We've got to stage that stairway. And I don't think we could do it at night, put the staging up, take it down, but I think it's a good solid week during a vacation period, we can get that work done. And it just doesn't involve the wall covering guy. We've got to get the electrician there to take fixtures down. We have to get laborers there to do protection because now you have the building. And we need to make sure that when we leave, it's spotless. Final cleaners would come in and the like. So that's all manageable, but it's in cooperation with the Board of Ed and the principal as we move the project to final completion.
Chris?
So can I go back to my question about why are we not running double shifts and weekends now to make sure we're ahead of as much as we possibly can be? Because
Are.
what you
We
just
are-
described is a nightmare, you know,
We
Steve,
are
that's a nightmare.
we are running longer shifts. We are working on Saturdays. We're working as many hours as we can get out of the trade contractors without returns. There's a point in time when you work people too long that you get nothing out of them. As the contractor, what's reasonable to expect out of a group of limited resource of labor? So yeah, we are working longer shifts, working double shifts if we need to. We do have some, I think, limiting constraints from the town that were part of the permitting, so it's not like we can have 1,000 people there doing things. It's all manageable. Saturdays has been a job. It's been open since March on Saturdays, and we've had our supervision there and some fairly large crews there. Like I said, the chlorination package from the plumbing contractor will be there this Saturday. We've got a number of trade contractors working this Saturday as well.
Okay, any other questions for Adam? Okay, then I think we can deal with our one PCO.
So yeah, it's not even a PCO. So I'll screen share here the two just procurement items. One is an update. And the other one is as something for action. So the one that's an update, this is something that was approved by the expedite approval subcommittee with regard to some IT equipment. So at some point there'll be an invoice coming through there, but that was ordered and coordinated through Jamie. The other item is for consideration. This is for, it's basically an approval for not to exceed $4,000 for playground inspection services. This was something that initially was believed to be, could have been completed through some town staff, but as we got down to the finer details, the outside inspector needed to be coordinated on that front. So that's what this authorization is for.
And this is inspection once the mulch goes in so that it's
Yeah,
okay for
it's-
kids to be on there?
Yes, it's two-pronged. So the first one will be when the mulch is down and confirming that the adjustments to the playgrounds, because mulch is a little taller, so the swings have to be a little higher and there needs to be mats and things to confirm that it's acceptable and meets all required codes and temporary clearances for kids to be out there. And then once the pourable surface is down, he'll come back and just limitedly test the surface to make sure it meets all the resiliency requirements and things.
Okay, so this should be inclusive of,
It's both.
There's
it should be
both, yes.
Both, yes.
okay. Questions on that? Is there a motion to award the playground inspection services to JP LaRue for an amount not to exceed $4,000? Okay, from Rich, is there a second? Thank you, Steve. All in favor of approving the motion to award the playground inspection services to JP LaRue, please indicate. Any opposed or abstentions? Okay, so that's unanimous then. And the only other item is the meeting schedule for 2023?
Yes, I'll share that so everyone can look at it at the same time. So this was compiled by Tasha just to align with the current typical timeframe for these meetings. There was some discussion either a week or 2 or 3 meetings ago about how many more meetings and how long into 2023. There'll be a lot of activity over the first couple months of 2023 to be sure. That can likely be pared down as we shift into the latter portions of spring and summer. Likely at least once a month for invoices and things of that nature. Newfield and their crews will have work that gets completed. That will need payouts and things of that nature. In addition, all the other consultants that we have working on the closeout items. So obviously it's up to the committee's decision as to what the schedule wants to be, but it was just put together as a sort of pro forma, maintaining the same schedule, and then potentially meetings could be canceled as we went throughout the year.
I think that it's really useful to have all of them scheduled. It's easy if there's no agenda to cancel a meeting. And it's also easy if something comes up to have a special meetings with enough notice. So as long as none of these dates conflict with a traditional Christian or Jewish holiday, and I think Tash is pretty careful about that. Or with a national holiday like Veterans Day or Memorial Day. We're on a Thursday, so that's pretty safe. So I move we accept the calendar as proposed.
Okay, thank you. Second from Steve. Any other comments, questions? Okay, then all in favor of approving the calendar as proposed, please indicate. Any opposed or abstentions? Okay. That then is our last order of business for today, and I would accept a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Chris. Kiefer moves to adjourn as our second. Rich, thank you. Then all in favor, you can indicate and you can log off. Thank you, everyone.
Good night, everyone.